My family thought I was a failure. At every dinner I was the joke. Until one day, my sister walked into a job interview and found me sitting at the head of the table. This is the story of how I went from family disgrace to CEO. Before we dive in, if you've ever been underestimated by the people who should have supported you the most, hit that subscribe button. Because this channel is for the quiet builders, the misjudged, and the ones who rise when no one's watching. Now, let's begin. The aroma of hickory smoke and grilled corn floated lazily through the early evening air as the Hawthorne family's annual summer gathering kicked off in a quiet neighborhood outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Porch lights flickered on as children played tag between garden chairs, and uncles leaned back with cold beers, laughing over fantasy football picks. I stood alone near the back fence, 33 now, yet still treated like the indecisive liberal arts grad who never quite found her lane. At the heart of the gathering was my younger sister, Ava, glowing in a sleek ivory dress, animatedly sharing her most recent accomplishments to a captivated crowd of relatives. Ava just wrapped up her dual MBAs at Stanford and Columbia, my mother announced, her voice raised just enough for me to hear. She's got interviews lined up with top-tier firms. She's destined for greatness. She said it like she'd single-handedly scripted Ava's path to success. I sipped quietly on my sparkling water, waiting for the inevitable jab. And meanwhile, she added, voice turning sharp, some people still haven't figured out what to do with their lives. Right, Sophia. I met her gaze and gave a small, unreadable smile. Across the patio, my father chuckled as he turned a burger on the grill. Still fiddling with that little startup idea of yours? He asked with a half-smirk. What was it again? Online. Systems something. He meant it as a joke. His tone was light, but the condescension wasn't new. I traced the condensation on my glass, already thinking about the board meeting I'd be leading tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. That meeting, where the final acquisition of Hartwell Technologies would close. Where I, Sophia Hawthorne, founder and CEO of Ardent Core Solutions, would finalize the merger that would make our consultancy one of the largest in the Southeast. But for now I kept that to myself. Just then, Ava clapped her hands and called out to the group. Big news, everyone, she beamed. I've got an interview tomorrow with Ardent Core. They reached out to me directly. It's one of the fastest growing tech firms in the country. Applause rang out. My Aunt Miriam hurried over with a chilled glass of rose. That's wonderful, Ava. I just read about the founder in TechNation. Brilliant woman. Self-made. My father gave a proud nod. They don't hire just anyone. It's a serious company. I bit back a laugh, recalling the HR shortlist in my inbox back at the office, Ava's resume sitting second from the top. She had no idea that the company she'd been raving about for weeks was mine. That the woman on the cover of TechNation, under the name H. Monroe, was me. That while she proudly walked the path that had been laid for her, I'd carved my own through 10 years of grit and relentless work in a tiny shared workspace in Raleigh. What role are you interviewing for? I asked, feigning polite interest. Her eyes sparkled. Senior strategy consultant. It's practically executive level. Crazy, right? She giggled. Maybe once I get hired I can refer you in, sophomore. I'm sure they could use someone to help with admin. My mom chuckled from across the lawn. That's so thoughtful of you, honey. Heaven knows your sister could use the help. 33, and she's still trying to figure it out. I took another sip of my drink and smiled to myself, thinking about my penthouse office on the 40th floor, with its panoramic view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. The Forbes feature last month had called me the silent force behind enterprise innovation in the South. The photo had shown only a silhouette, but that had been intentional. I'd built Ardent Core in the shadows by design. But I always knew there would come a moment like this. One final family gathering before the truth would come to light. One last evening where they still saw me as an afterthought. The irony. Ava was right, tomorrow would change everything. Just not the way she thought. By 6:45 a.m., I was already seated in my corner office, the early morning sunlight casting golden streaks across the polished stone floors. The skyline of downtown Raleigh stretched out before me, a quiet reminder of how far I'd come. My slate-gray Alexander McQueen suit felt less like a fashion choice and more like armor. I reviewed the day's interview agenda while sipping espresso from my usual mug, the one that read Founder Fuel. There was a soft knock. My executive assistant, Hannah, stepped in quietly. "Your sister's interview is at 9 a.m. sharp," she said, handing me a slim folder. "She's already in the lobby. Arrived 30 minutes early. Punctual." "That's new," I said dryly, raising an eyebrow. "She's also posted about it," Hannah added with a slight grin. She tagged the company and called herself a future executive at Ardent Core. Marketing flagged it. Front desk says she mentioned revamping our strategy playbook once she's on board. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Of course she did. On paper, Ava was golden. Ivy League credentials, dual graduate degrees, shiny internships and polished references. But I knew the truth. I knew how many of those accolades had been hand-fed to her through family connections and curated opportunities. Her LinkedIn profile might shine, but it was a house of glass. And I was about to throw the first stone. "The board's wondering why you're personally conducting this interview," Hannah noted, clearly enjoying the irony. "Quality control," I replied, standing up and smoothing my blazer. "How many rounds before me?" 3. They've been briefed. They'll ask the right questions. By 9 a.m., I stood behind the one-way mirror overlooking the main conference suite. Ava walked in, confident and glowing in a designer Chanel blazer, heels clicking with authority. She greeted the first interviewer like she owned the place. Over the next 2 hours, I watched her carefully crafted facade begin to crumble. Every rehearsed answer felt hollow under pressure. Every inflated title was challenged. Every buzzword probed. Her confidence wavered. The smiles became forced. By the time she reached the final interview, mine, she looked like someone trying to hold it all together with unraveling thread. "Send her in," I told Hannah. When Ava entered my office, her eyes immediately widened as she took in the skyline, the curated modern art, the quiet power of the space. My back was turned toward the window. "Please have a seat, Miss Hawthorne," I said, my voice steady and unreadable. She cleared her throat as she sat, clearly trying to compose herself. "Thank you for making time, Mr. Monroe. I understand how busy your schedule must be." I slowly turned in my chair and locked eyes with her. "Actually," I said, allowing a small, calm smile to rise, "it's Miss Monroe. Sophia Monroe Hawthorne." Her expression froze. The blood drained from her face. She blinked rapidly, struggling to process the truth that was staring her down across the desk. The sister she had belittled for years now sitting as CEO of the very company she had dreamed of joining. "Hello, Ava. Have you ever had someone look at you like you were nothing, and then realize you were everything they underestimated? If you've ever felt invisible, even to your own family, this moment is for you. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because this community is for the underestimated, the quiet winners, the ones still building. Let them laugh. We'll keep rising." Ava's lips parted, but no words came. Her polished persona faltered as the weight of recognition settled in. Her eyes darted around the room, to the awards on the walls, the framed Tech Nation cover, the metallic desk nameplate that read Sophia R. Hawthorne CO. Her carefully curated confidence melted into something I hadn't seen in her since we were kids. Uncertainty. "This doesn't make sense," she finally stammered, her voice cracking. "You're a freelancer. That's what Mom said." I leaned back slightly, folding my hands on the desk. "Is that what you believed? That I was playing with websites and invoices from my kitchen table?" Ava shook her head slowly, still stunned. "You never told anyone." "No," I replied evenly. "I didn't. 'Cause I was too busy building. While you were polishing LinkedIn bios and adding MBA case studies to your resume, I was negotiating million-dollar contracts and building AI-integrated platforms from the ground up. Every time you joked about my little project, I was hiring talent from Fortune 100 companies. She swallowed hard. You tricked us. No, I said calmly. You tricked yourself. You were so eager to believe I had failed that you never once thought to ask what I was really doing. I tapped my phone and pulled up my banking app. Turning the screen toward her, I showed the six-figure transaction I'd just sent for Dad's birthday gift, the one she claimed she had covered again. To me, that's a rounding error, I said softly. But I figured Mom would appreciate knowing I paid my part. Ava's hands trembled. So this was revenge. I tilted my head. No, Ava. This was an interview. One you asked for. One you weren't ready for. Tears began to well up, not of sadness but of pure embarrassment. Are you going to tell the family? Humiliate me? I shook my head. I don't need to say a word. Your performance today will speak for itself. All 3 senior directors independently recommended against hiring you. Too shallow, too rehearsed, too entitled. Not ready. Her jaw clenched. You set me up. I gave you a shot, I said firmly. And you underestimated me just like everyone else did. This wasn't sabotage. This was a mirror. She stood abruptly, trying to collect herself, but her elegance now felt artificial. Her designer heels seemed unsteady. Her confidence had cracked. Do they know? Mom and Dad? She asked, almost a whisper. They will, I replied, walking toward the door. I'm sure you'll tell them all about your interview with the mysterious Miss Monroe. I pressed the intercom. Hannah, please escort Miss Hawthorne out. Also, cancel my dinner plans with the family. Yes, ma'am, came the reply. As the door closed behind Ava, I heard a muffled sob echo in the hallway. Not the triumphant exit she had envisioned. Within the hour, my phone began to light up with messages. What kind of cruel joke is this? Ava is devastated. Dad, how could you embarrass your sister like that? We raised you better. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before placing it face down on my desk. They finally knew. But what they didn't realize was that I had stopped needing their validation years ago. I replied to the family group chat with just one message. You raised me to be successful. Congratulations. You did. Then I powered off my phone. I turned back to the window, gazing at the horizon. Across the skyline, Ardent Core's name gleamed on the tallest building downtown. I hadn't put it there for attention. I put it there to remind myself, and every woman who'd ever been dismissed at a dinner table, that silence doesn't equal surrender. Later that week, I met with the board to finalize the company's expansion strategy. Our European rollout was months ahead of schedule, and we had just closed a multi-year contract with one of the world's leading logistics conglomerates. While some were busy doubting me, I'd built a billion-dollar firm with my bare hands, and now we were scaling even further. But perhaps the most unexpected opportunity came not from a client or an investor, but from within. That same day, I received a handwritten letter from our youngest data analyst, Liana, who had joined us straight out of a community college. She had read my Forbes interview and written, I thought I had to become someone else to be taken seriously in tech. You made me believe I could lead as I am. That one letter meant more than all the hollow praise I'd chased from my family. And Ava. She took a project coordinator role at a boutique branding agency across town. No flashy titles. No corner office. Just a modest job, earned the old-fashioned way. I wasn't bitter. I actually hoped she'd learn something real there. About humility, about effort, about showing up when no one's clapping. As for my parents, the Sunday dinners stopped. The house that once rang with laughter and passive-aggressive comments now sat quiet on weekends. Whether it was shame or confusion, I didn't know. Maybe they were trying to figure out how to talk to the daughter they thought they had all figured out. I didn't chase them. For the first time in my life, I wasn't operating out of a need to prove myself. I was operating from peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing who you are without needing applause to echo it back. And in that peace, I found space to mentor other women, to open doors that had once been slammed in my face. I began hosting quiet founder circles for underrepresented voices in tech. The kind of community I once wished for during my darkest, loneliest building years. The truth is, the best opportunity that ever came my way wasn't a client or a contract. It was finally becoming the version of myself that I had always been building toward. The weeks that followed weren't easy, but they were liberating. Conversations with my family became strained, reduced to short, civil exchanges or awkward Zoom calls that lacked the old performative warmth. There were no more condescending jokes about my little business, no more comparisons to Ava's LinkedIn updates. Just silence. And honestly, I preferred it that way. I no longer felt the urge to defend my path or explain myself to people who had never truly seen me. For the first time in years, I wasn't seeking applause or understanding. I was standing firmly in the life I had built, without shortcuts, without endorsements, and without a spotlight. At Ardent Core, something shifted too. People began looking at me differently. Not because I'd changed, but because they had finally caught up. The once anonymous founder had become visible. And with that visibility came a responsibility I embraced with open arms. I made it a point to be more present. Not just in meetings but in mentoring sessions, onboarding calls, product brainstorms, especially with our junior team members. I shared parts of my story with them, not for praise, but so they'd know that resilience sometimes looks quiet, and success doesn't always follow the rules your parents taught you. One of our interns, a first-gen college student named Mateo, asked me during a Friday lunch Q&A, "How did you stay motivated when everyone doubted you?" I didn't have to think long. Because I knew what they didn't, I replied. That I was building something real. And that's more important than building something impressive. They nodded. Some even teared up. That moment, standing in front of bright, eager faces who saw in me the possibility of their own future, was the kind of fulfillment no headline or funding round could ever bring. Meanwhile, Ava remained a presence, but a distant one. We crossed paths once at a local tech mixer. She wore a brave face and offered a polite smile. I returned it with sincerity. I no longer felt resentment. Pity, maybe. But even that faded when I realized she was finally learning the lesson life had been trying to teach her all along. You can't fake your way into fulfillment. I stopped caring whether my parents understood what I had achieved. Instead, I focused on expanding our impact. We launched a scholarship fund for women in underserved communities entering the tech field. We partnered with local high schools to introduce coding early, especially to young girls who'd never even considered it a career path. With every initiative, I felt more aligned with who I had become, not just a CEO but a builder of bridges, not just for profit but for purpose. I used to think I needed validation to feel real. But what I truly needed was time, to become the version of myself that never needed to be introduced, just recognized. And now, with each step I took forward, the shadow of doubt behind me grew smaller, until it disappeared entirely. 3 months later, the transformation became undeniable. A knock on my office door brought a heavy envelope. It contained 10 copies of the latest Forbes issue. On the cover, "The Silent Architect: How Sophia Hawthorne Built a Billion-Dollar Empire from the Shadows." My face, no longer hidden in silhouette, looked straight into the camera, shoulders squared, expression unapologetic. The backdrop: Ardent Core's headquarters glinting under a Carolina sunrise. No headlines shouted revenge. No pull quotes hinted at family drama. It was pure legacy. The article chronicled my 10-year journey, from freelancing in a tiny apartment in Durham to leading one of the most disruptive AI consultancies in the United States. It didn't romanticize the grind. It honored the quiet resilience that too often goes unnoticed. I had 10 copies shipped, one to each family member's home. No note, no caption, just the truth. And that was enough. I didn't need them to call. I didn't need applause. I had something stronger than recognition. I had clarity, and peace. And a company that now stood as a lighthouse for people who had ever been told they'd never make it. The ripple effect was immediate. I received dozens of messages from women who said they had printed my article and taped it above their desks. Founders, students, single moms, all saying the same thing. I thought I was the only one. The truth is, We're never the only ones. We're just made to feel that way when our success doesn't follow the traditional script. Ava never responded to the magazine. But I heard through mutual friends that she saw it, and left her copy face down on the kitchen counter for weeks. Maybe she was angry, maybe ashamed, maybe simply stunned. But for once she was silent. The same silence she used to fill with smug advice and half-patronizing smiles was now mine. But unlike her, I didn't wield it to diminish. I let it speak, loudly, powerfully, gracefully, because some victories don't come with fireworks. Some of the most powerful moments arrive in stillness, in knowing that you stayed the course when no one clapped, believed in yourself when no one else did, and made something real out of nothing but grit. That's the kind of win no one can take away. As I stood before our leadership team that Friday morning, announcing our Europe expansion and unveiling our new mentorship initiative, I didn't think about proving anything to anyone anymore. I thought about possibility, about how many others were still quietly building in the dark, waiting for someone to tell them it mattered. Well, here I am. To anyone who's ever been overlooked, dismissed, or underestimated, you don't need to be louder. You just need to last. Keep showing up. Keep building. And one day, when they finally look up, they'll realize your name's not just on a resume. It's on the building. Sometimes the people who should believe in you the most are the ones who doubt you first. Not out of cruelty, but out of a limited view of what success should look like. When the world only celebrates loud victories, it often misses the quiet ones being built in silence. But your worth isn't determined by their applause. It's shaped by your consistency, your resilience, and the courage to keep going even when no one's watching. Sophia's journey teaches us that validation from others is temporary, but self-respect lasts. You don't need to win family dinners, post flashy titles, or constantly explain yourself. Real success is being so grounded in your mission that their misunderstandings no longer sting. Because at the end of the day, it's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right, and building something they can't ignore even if they try. If you're quietly building something, whether it's a business, a dream, a new life path, don't be discouraged by those who don't understand it. They might laugh, they might dismiss it, they might tell you to be realistic. Let them. Use their doubt as fuel, not a reason to quit. Instead of chasing validation, chase excellence. Keep learning. Keep showing up. Create systems that work. Deliver value even if the room is empty. Because one day, the same people who once questioned you will sit silently, wondering how they missed the signs of your greatness. And when that day comes, don't gloat. Just keep building. If you've ever hidden your success to keep the peace, or built something powerful while they laughed, see you. Tell your story in the comments. What are you working on? Who are you becoming? Because this community isn't about shouting your wins. It's about owning them silently and powerfully. Hit subscribe for more stories like this. Let them doubt. We'll keep building.